Hey kids, I'm Pastor Joyce, and I'm here to share you the story of Jesus on the road to Emmaus, taken from Luke 24. 3 days after Jesus had been crucified on the cross, two of his followers were traveling from Jerusalem to Emmaus. Emmaus, meaning warm water, is believed to have been a hot spring village 7 miles northwest of Jerusalem, so it's about a 3-hour walk. The two disciples were talking about everything that had happened, how they were excited to attend the Passover feast because they thought Jesus, the Messiah, was going to free them all from Roman rule. They were also part of the crowd who wanted to crown him king and witnessed the sight of many people laying down palm leaves as they welcomed Jesus into Jerusalem on a donkey. But within a week, everything had turned upside down. The Jewish religious leaders teamed up with the Romans and nailed Jesus to the cross. The two followers were extremely confused about all this. Wasn't it obvious that Jesus was the Messiah? What happened? With all their hopes stripped away so suddenly, they couldn't make sense of anything, whether it was their feelings or the speculations and rumors going around. And while they were debating on the road, the resurrected Jesus came up and walked alongside with them. But God kept them from recognizing him. Jesus asked, "What were you talking about as you walked along?" They stood still, and their faces were sad. Cleopas, one of the followers, replied, "Are you the only person visiting Jerusalem who doesn't know? Don't you know about the things that had happened there in the last few days?" Jesus, probably with a smirk inside, asked innocently, "What things?" "About Jesus of Nazareth. He was a prophet. He was powerful in what he said and did in the sight of God and all the people. But the chief priests and the rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death. They nailed him to the cross. We had hoped that he was the one who was going to set Israel free. Also, it is the 3rd day since all this had happened. Some of our women amazed us too. Early this morning they went to the tomb, but they did not find his body there. So they came back and told us what they had seen. They saw angels who said Jesus was alive. Then some of our friends went to the tomb. They saw that it was empty, just as the woman had said. They didn't see Jesus' body there." Now from Cleopas' words, we know that these two followers were very close to Jesus and the 12 disciples. Some have guessed that the other follower was Luke, the author himself, or Simon, who was later referenced in the story. Other tradition says that Cleopas is the uncle of Jesus, and the person walking beside him is Mary, his wife, who was close to Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. Now, there are other versions that says that Cleopas was walking with his son Simeon, who was the second bishop of Jerusalem, after the martyrdom of James, the first bishop and brother of Jesus. But to be honest, no one knows for sure who the other disciple was on the road. They didn't know what to make of the rumors about the empty tomb. Was it true? If so, what does it all mean? And if it's not true, what really happened? It was the search of truth, probably the spirit of determination to find out what really happened, that drew Jesus to them before even appearing to the 11 disciples. Jesus let them express their deep pain and raw grief because he cares for them. And even though they did not recognize him, Jesus was with them on this road, on this journey, both physically and spiritually. And after hearing their outpour, Jesus wanted to cheer them up and nurse their faith back to full health again. He said, "How foolish you are! How long does it take for you to believe in all that the prophets had said? Didn't the Messiah have to go through suffering before receiving his glory?" So then he explained to them what was said about himself in all the scriptures. He began with Moses and the prophets. And as of what we know of today, there are 355 Old Testament prophecies fulfilled in Jesus. And over 100 of them is about his life, death, burial, and resurrection. The Gospel of Matthew is also a great place to start because it was written for Jewish readers to understand how Jesus fulfilled the scriptures. Little by little, these two followers began to understand and is filled with hope. As the 3 of them approached the village, Jesus kept walking as if he was going further. Cleopas and his companion tried hard to stop him from leaving them. "Stay with us. It is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So Jesus went in and stayed with them. Jesus joined them at the table. He then took the bread and gave thanks. He broke it and gave it to them. Suddenly their eyes opened and they recognized Jesus. But before they could say or do anything, Jesus disappeared from their sight. I imagine, probably with a wink or a cheeky smile. In that moment of awe, they thought back to the past few hours of all the emotional ups and downs that Jesus had walked them through. They felt embarrassed for showing their lack of faith to Jesus, who helped them express their feelings, who cleared away their confusion, and filled their lives with hope with the scriptures. And now, being silly up close to them and revealing himself to them out of all people. They said to each other, he explained to us what the scripture meant. Weren't we excited when he talked with us on the road? Yes, the Messiah is here not to conquer Roman oppression, but to conquer a greater enemy, death, once and for all. Realizing the truth and being filled with the joy of witnessing the resurrected Lord, they got up immediately and went back to Jerusalem. Their friends were still in the pits of hopelessness, and so they had to share the good news to them. Just as Jesus lifted them up, they too are now going to lift their friends up because Jesus has truly risen. Back in Jerusalem, they found the 11 disciples and those with them. They were all gathered together. The 2 followers said, "It's true, the Lord has risen. He has appeared before Simon." And so they began to tell them of all the stories of what happened through the journey, including how dumbstruck they were when they finally recognized Jesus as he broke the bread. Just imagine how mind-blowing this was for all the disciples. From again and again, they hear of the resurrected Jesus, yet they themselves had not seen him yet. Resurrection, is it even possible? I wonder if Jesus is doing this intentionally, to give his disciples a chance to believe without seeing, to experience greater grace, which is faith without sight. Anyways, while the disciples were still discussing, debating, or even denying everything amongst themselves, suddenly Jesus stood among them and said, "May you have peace." They were surprised and terrified. Is this Jesus' ghost? Honestly, I think Jesus had way too much fun here with his followers. It's like he enjoys sneaking up behind them and pulling a prank. From this story, we really see the funny and silly side of Jesus. After proving his resurrected self and that he is not a ghost, Jesus opened the scriptures and shared to them everything that had happened, from his own personal mission to now their disciples' calling to share the good news of God's kingdom on earth from Jerusalem to the ends of the earth until Jesus returns the second time. Today, what is your journey of life like? Are you sad and in need of caring? Are you filled with joy and need to learn how to share that with others? Whatever it is, let us live our lives to Jesus because he wants to walk with you through the highs and through the lows.